Guys, we are witnessing, which is my camera, that one.
This one, Mati.
We are witnessing.
We only did this for like 2 years, but sure.
I'll try again. We're witnessing the great reshuffling of power in the Middle East. Two big headlines happened this week. One is the MBS and Trump meeting, and the second one is the new plan for the Middle East, the Trump 20-point plan, goes through a vote in the UN Security Council. Two very dramatic events, very substantial. The headlines are F-35s for the Saudis, tanks for the Saudis, civil nuclear power for the Saudis, the AI for the Saudis, the best of the fastest.
Basically, the same things that the U.S. is selling Israel will go to the Saudi Arabians.
No, these are things that Israel doesn't have. We don't buy American tanks.
That's true. We have better tanks. We have our own tanks.
Yeah, so they're getting all the best off the shelf, the top shelf of the American equipment, and at the same time, the Trump White House manages to approve in the UN Security Council, which is no small feat.
It's shocking. I was sure that Russia would veto this vote.
I'm telling you, they did.
They did.
Yeah.
But no, they abstained.
This time.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So there was
there was a conversation between Bibi to Putin just this week on the phone, and after that, the claim on the UN got dropped. I will just say that maybe our prime minister need to get a clap about that.
Maybe.
We
Nobody
don't know.
knows.
Maybe there's a Trump and Putin conversation that took place that we're not aware of. Because what we're looking at here is dramatic on every level. The last couple of weeks have been very, very quick when it comes to headlines. This is beyond quick. This is in one fell swoop. It's completely restructuring the power balance in the Middle East. And if you think about this, Iran, the arch nemesis of all free countries and all Western countries, they've just taken a substantial loss by these two events taking place, where all their allies are now aligned with the U.S. Every power move that they had is almost removed from the table, and this happened in just a couple days.
Yeah.
Very impressive.
Yeah, but so far it looks like the Hamas terrorist organization is not happy with this passing the United Nations Security Council resolution, because they said that any kind of international force in the Gaza Strip will be treated like they treat Israel, which we know that means they want to kill them and wage a war. With love and
kisses
hugs.
and flowers.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about this for a second. I feel like we need to sort of set the record straight on what Hamas is planning to do.
So just before we start,
Please.
Tomer, you do it.
You do it,
okay,
Tomer.
click the subscribe button.
But happier, you look like you're depressed.
I'm not. We really need your help. We need you to click on the subscribe button, hit the like button, and
Leave a comment.
leave a comment. And I'm not good at that as Yair is good at that. But it's super important for us to get to more people and spread the truth about what's happening in Israel.
Yeah, and here in the studio, by the way, guys, we have guests from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. That's a Amish area. And we have a guest from Ohio, which I've been to both places. Not sure where in Ohio, but it's great to have you here with us in person. And next time you guys are in Jerusalem, make sure to leave us a comment, email, and tell us that you want to come and visit us here at the TBN Israel studio in Jerusalem. And we'll love to have you here.
Yeah.
We have great coffee.
And there's no charge. We just do this because we love connecting with people in person.
Exactly.
That's the main part of it. So to go back to what we were asking, I feel like we need to address this issue for a second.
Which issue? The issue that America is about to sell $1 trillion worth of the best of the best military deal?
Hamas.
Oh, you're talking about that issue.
I'll ask you in question form.
Okay.
Yair, did you ever expect Hamas to lay down its weapons and say, oh, we were wrong about this whole violence and resistance thing. We're going to go the peaceful route. Did you ever expect that to happen?
No, I didn't. That's why I don't expect the 200 terrorists that are stuck in the tunnels to go back and start selling shawarmas or falafels when they're back in the Gaza Strip.
There are only 100.
Exactly.
They're going to do what they always have done, and that's rage terror, incite against Israel, and harm the Palestinian people in Gaza.
Yeah. So here's what we reported on just a few days ago. The U.S. just solved many, many pieces in the puzzle. Some of them were incredibly complex, and for 2 to 3 weeks, the headlines didn't make sense until the resolution was passed in the UN and until the MBS and Trump meeting. And I'll try to do
Maybe
this.
explain what's MBS to our viewers.
Mohammed bin Salman.
Yes.
Which is very different than MBZ, Mohammed bin Zayed. That's the UAE. Mohammed bin Salman is the chair.
The crown prince of Saudi Arabia.
The crown prince of Saudi Arabia. He's not actually the official leader.
Yeah.
He's the leader to be of Saudi Arabia. and there's a power struggle that's going on there. And part of this is really solidifying him, who's considered to be, for the most part, a moderate individual, aside from their treatment of certain
We know who's moderate in these days, you know.
Yeah.
You have Al-Qaeda leaders considered as moderate individuals.
They only rarely disappear journalists.
Yes.
In suitcases in Turkey.
In multiple pieces.
Anyway, back to our point. He's considered, MBS is Mohammed bin Salman. He is the crown prince of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is the crown jewel of Sunni Islam. That's important to note.
Yeah, Mecca is located in Saudi Arabia,
Yes.
which is the number one holiest site to Islam.
Yeah, we just came back from Dallas, which I call
The Mecca of Christianism.
Christian Mecca or Christian Temple Mount. Mecca is the Mecca of Islam.
Yes, the real one.
But importantly, Iran, they're the crown jewel of Shia Islam. So it's Sunni versus Shia. It is as opposed and as angry of a relationship as, let's call it, Protestant and Catholic Church 400 years ago. I mean, violent to the point of war. They've been fighting a war long before anyone heard of the Houthis, anyone heard of, all these drone strikes and stuff like that. They've been fighting a Cold War for years.
And they never stopped this war.
And never
the war continued.
This is another play in that war.
That's why the Iranians are supporting the Houthis in Yemen. Before they launched attack against Israel, they took over Yemen from the Saudi-appointed government.
Yes.
So that's what it's all about. It's a proxy war between Sunni Islam and Shiite Islam.
Exactly.
And then, of course, they have a common enemy, which is Israel and the Jewish people. And then the United States also sometimes.
I don't know that Saudi would call us their enemy. I would
Not
say
officially.
they would call us frenemies.
Frenemies. I like
because
it.
we have an alignment, friends and enemies. We have an alignment on certain value issues. When it comes to the question of how do we want the Middle East to look, Israel and Saudi are very aligned.
Aligned very much.
Very aligned. When it comes to them having a huge problem with everything that has to do with the Palestinian story and its conflict with Israel, that's a side note to all of this that also has been resolved. I want to just put this on the table because it's very easy to miss how many details have been placed on the table for this one conversation. There was a huge question when it comes to Hamas. This is the UN resolution. Who's going to govern Hamas or the Gaza Strip in the day after Hamas? And there's two questions to that. One, who's going to be able to squeeze out Hamas? The second question is who will be willing to put boots on the ground? Because for most Muslim countries, the idea of actively fighting against the Hamas terrorists in the Gaza Strip is an idea they're not able to live with comfortably.
Yeah.
To have their soldiers killed by Hamas, or possibly even worse for them, have their soldiers killing Hamas would look very bad for their public. So most Arab countries
It will align them with Israel. That's the fear.
and the
They
US.
don't want to align themselves with Israel.
So what does the US do? Now the headlines make sense. 2 weeks ago, we hear of what country that starts negotiating a defense pact with the US? Azerbaijan.
Yeah. Out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. And everyone looks at this as
Indonesia and
Indonesia.
And
Yeah.
what could this mean? So here's the answer. Indonesia and Azerbaijan are the countries that are supposed to have boots on the ground in the Gaza Strip. So that solves one problem of who's going to govern. Then the question of Hamas really gets interesting. We just said they're not going to leave peacefully. They're a terrorist organization. They've done exactly the opposite. While everyone's pressuring them inside the Gaza Strip, they said, let's go global. In the same way the PLO did this in the past, in the same way Hezbollah did it in the past, when they're threatened locally and they can't carry out any attacks locally, they start sending their, let's call it what it is, their roots of cancer throughout the world, setting up local terrorism hubs with the expectation of not being able to carry out any tactical attacks locally. They want to threaten Israel and Western life externally.
One place that they did this just this week was training new operatives in Lebanon to carry out more attacks against Israel and to destabilize this country against the Jewish state in support of the Hezbollah terrorist organization, while the Lebanese National Army are trying to dismantle them unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
So this
they
is just
took
proof
it-
that they're not waiting. They're just reestablishing their rule in the Gaza Strip with retraining, rearming, and starting to collect taxes. So the IDF also carried out an attack in the area of Gaza City against a command station of Hamas and also in Lebanon against Hamas.
they
So
found it-
this is what's happening now just all around us.
Yeah.
In Austria, they found a warehouse full of weapons.
Tomer, but if the IDF carried out a strike against Hamas in Gaza City, does it mean that we violated the ceasefire agreement?
No.
Why not?
No, so
Or Mati?
No. So we're
a great
we're allowed to
question.
we're allowed to defend ourselves. The ceasefire, it's very very clear on what the game is. They stop fighting, they remove their arms, and when they try to regather weapons, manufacture weapons, we're allowed to stop them. And what we've been doing,
as we did with in Lebanon. With
it
Hezbollah.
might look like a preemptive attack. It's actually us responding to Hezbollah trying to rebuild their positions and to Hamas trying to rebuild the terrorism infrastructure. So just to say this, to once again connect the dots for people, this big move that the U.S. has been doing in the Middle East is multiple levels of pressure. On the bottom, let's call it tactical level, it's Israeli boots on the ground, not American. It's Israeli forces in Lebanon, Syria, elsewhere possibly, and definitely in the Gaza Strip. And it's our Air Force fighting and bombing the terrorist infrastructure. That's tactical. That's on the fighting level of things. Then there's a financial side, incentivizing all the countries in the region. Hey, let's work together to rebuild you. Then on top of that, there's a negative pressure, which is Hamas in this case, for instance, saying to them, if you, outside of the borders of Israel, if you dare overstep what we're allowing in the ceasefire agreement, we have the Turkish allies, we have the Qatari allies, who are literally going to decapitate you. Not in a matter of speech, but
also your leadership outside of the Gaza Strip.
Exactly.
Basically.
So there's this really thick layer of pressure on every possible level on them, which is allowing what happened this week to take place, which is the U.S. to say, here is phase two. Phase two is we bring in an external force. That external force is already in part operating. It has a huge base in Kiryat Gat in southern Israel. There's logistics, there's Intl, there's aerial assets, there's a huge amount of humanitarian.
I really hope we're going to let our viewers a peek to that place and get a permission to go
so.
to Kiryat Gat.
Yeah, it will be cool to see the drones that are operated by the United States to monitor the ceasefire agreement.
Yeah, and the list goes on. There's civil engineers and engineering forces and all of that. It's just poised and waiting for Hamas to be removed, at least mostly, and for an international force to come in and build something new and effective in the Gaza.
How? With what operation? If Hamas is cancer, how are you going to operate it out of the body?
Like we're doing right now. What we're doing right now is use a combination of chemo and radiation for most types of cancer.
Humanitarian aid and destroying tunnels.
Yeah, so
basically
it's tactical on the ground, IDF boots on the ground. It's civil, forcing food all the way to the people themselves, and
bypassing Hamas,
and it's international in the sense of pressuring Hamas leadership. By the way, Hamas now has also, it used to be separated. Military leadership was on the ground in Gaza, and what they call diplomatic leadership or political leadership would be outside. Now it's all mixed up inside Hamas.
Not sure who's the number one leader in this organization.
But not only that, they have military presence outside of the Gaza Strip now. They're really trying to spread out their terrorism. Let's call it diversify their portfolio. That's what they're trying to do.
You saw that?
Yeah, we just had a terror attack not far from here a few days ago.
Which one?
In Jerusalem.
The one south of Jerusalem.
Yes.
Yeah, we had several.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and this is
With
what
four Israelis got injured.
One
were killed.
3 injured.
60 years
One of
old.
them might have been blue on blue
Friendly fire.
But so that's in where I serve in reserves, and in that region, in 1 week, this is all Hamas, by the way. In 1 week, there was a small terrorist attack that was carried out a couple days ago, and then a week and a half before that, there was a very large terrorism group. While me and you were in the U.S. traveling, 40 people that were apprehended. A very substantial infrastructure was trying to carry out a much larger terrorist attack. And they arrested them. They had vehicles, they had cars, they had weapons. Vehicles and cars are the same.
Vehicles and cars and motorcycles
and automobiles
and driving machines.
Anyway, so they had those, and they had weapons, and they had cash, and they had their marching orders, all poised to do a substantial terrorist attack in Israel.
Yeah.
So that combined, you understand that Hamas is doing everything they can to export terrorism. And what happened in the UN, sort of pivoting back to what we're trying to talk about, is an amazing, amazing move carried out by the U.S. Where, think about it, they were able to circumvent or negotiate or both cause the Russians and every other country in the Security Council to approve their plan for rebuilding the Gaza Strip. And you got to hand it to them. That's
a huge achievement.
That's
a huge achievement against the Russians, against the Chinese, against every major world power. To get it passed. But what's very interesting to me, Mati, is that in Israel, despite the 2 years of war, the economy is becoming stronger and stronger. Maybe you can share about our partner for this show.
Okay, so our partner today is Wise Money Israel. And these are people we know, and I don't say this lightly. Every war always comes with this warning: the economy is going to collapse, the economy is going to collapse. And although we've had better years, Israel usually has very, very good years. This was just a good year. On a bad year, the Israeli economy grows more than most European economies. On a bad year.
On a bad year.
On a good year, it's multipliers of that. Our partners today are Wise Money Israel. They are your answer to the question: I have money in a 401k. I have money in an investment fund. I have money that I'm holding under my mattress, and I'm looking for an investment opportunity. And I also want to bless Israel. Well, this is your way to do that. They are registered in the U.S., they're registered in Israel, and they allow people to invest directly into the Israeli economy through stocks and bonds. They're registered, they're licensed. I know them personally, you know them personally. Good people, hardworking and honest people that have shown results for a really long time. They have clients from all over the world. And right now, people can get an opportunity to work exactly with them or directly with them and both bless the economy of Israel by directly investing and also make a return on it. This isn't a gift, not a donation. It's a way for you to invest into the Israeli economy. The link is wisemoneyisrael.com/TBN. Again,
Exactly.
wisemoneyisrael, one word, .com/TBN.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's go to the Saudi aid package, Mati. I think that's like a huge deal. $1 trillion worth of F-35 fighter jets, meaning the ones that Israel has also. Abraham tanks, almost as good as our Merkava tanks that you and I command in the IDF reserve, or used to. Now you became an infantry guy. You like to run up and down hills. And what does that mean? Because now Israel has air superiority over basically all our enemies in this region, or all our allies as well. But now they will have the almost exact military capabilities as us. Of course, that Israel modifies its technologies, its military technology with Israeli-made systems. So it's not going to be exactly the same. Plus, we have pilots that have many years of experience, especially in the past 2 years alone. So I wouldn't be worried just now, but this is like a huge purchase, and also with the numbers in terms of the amount of planes that it will have, and that will change the power equation in this region. I hope that it goes together with a security cooperation agreement or economic agreement with Israel that at least will guarantee that they will not use this force in order to isolate us.
What do you think about this deal, Yael? Like, what is your sense? I know we're sitting here in Jerusalem and Israel. Around the world, people are applauding it and saying this is an amazing deal, amazing deal. And I look at this and I say, Saudi is both a friend of our interest, but they're not necessarily a friendly country. And one day, and it might not be that far in the future, they might hugely disagree with us on a topic. And then we have a problem with them having F-35s.
Yes, exactly. So what I hope about this deal is that, first of all, Israel has like a back deal that the U.S. guarantees to sell us the next level advanced aerial defensive system and anti-aerial defensive system. So that's what I hope, that while they signed to these planes with the Saudis, then we will get the next batch of, the new iPhones in the block, so that we will maintain our qualitative edge in terms of military technology in this region. That's something that I hope. But on the other hand, I hope that this agreement will be beneficial to both countries in a way that none of us will want to violate it, because it will cost us so much. Kind of like the Israeli-Jordanian peace treaty that has, benefits to both sides, especially to the Jordanians, so that they don't want to violate this agreement with Israel. So I hope that there will be any kind of mechanism that will make sure it lasts after the term of President Trump in the United States.
I have a question about it. So I feel it's already, we already see what they're asking, because in the UN treaty, there is one thing that they somehow passed something that we didn't thought about it before the war, and it's a call for a Palestinian state. And in the UN security...
Come on, Tomer, that's not news to us.
Yeah, but
that's not news
but
to
that's
us.
what Saudi asked for, having a normalization with Israel.
But they've always said that. They've always said that any kind of normalization with Israel, any kind of Abraham Accords involvement on their behalf,
Will have to be after the resolving of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
yeah, they've
It's
always said it. They've been super open about it from the get-go. They've never changed their tune on this topic, and you can understand it. They're positioned as the leaders of the Sunni Muslim world. They can't possibly move forward when the war cry of the Palestinian or the pro-Palestinian or anti-Israeli agenda, especially in the Arab world, always is Al-Aqsa's in danger, Al-Aqsa's in danger, which is
Always.
It's the state behind the mound over there behind us.
Exactly.
So this is the rallying cry of the Arab world. We can't possibly expect them to move on without addressing the issue, and they're not. They're getting in this UN resolution. They're getting an answer to their question, and it's vague and it's unclear, but it says along the words of a pathway to a Palestinian state.
I think the thing that I would say concerns me the most is that they're going to get a so-called civil nuclear program from the United States of America. I think that from civil to military, the pathway is not so long.
I have no
That's
idea.
the point.
That's the point, right?
That is the point.
Exactly.
The point is, there's this whole notion that my enemy's enemy is my friend. Who is the biggest enemy of the Iranians? The Saudis. Unlike what people think, Israel is their
Secondary, yeah.
Israel's their ideological enemy. Israel is their let's call it the counter hero, or we're the hero, they're the enemy, the villain, but whatever. We're the sort of the antithesis of their character, and what they are is they look at us as we're proof that their ideology failed. But their next door neighbor, literally,
Yeah.
and their regional enemy and their enemy within the Muslim world are the Saudis. They've been exchanging blows with the Saudis much longer and much more actively than they have with Israel. It's just, it was Arab on Arab violence, so people weren't talking about it in the
Yeah,
past.
and I think basically Saudi Arabia wants to have the same nuclear level capability as the Iranians claim that they have at the moment.
Yeah, you're right.
So that they won't jumpstart to receiving a nuclear bomb, while the Saudis don't even have a civil program for a nuclear bomb.
That's happened with Japan. Apparently, they had civilian nuclear, and they turned it into
A military one?
military.
So,
one.
but the question is, why are you surprised that I'm right, Tomer? It was a very...
No, I didn't-
you're right.
We could have never seen this coming, yeah.
No, I didn't. I thought about the F-35, about the game changer, but apparently
The nukes, I think, are the number one.
The number one.
No, because they're
Game
asking a
changer.
different question. The U.S. is asking a different question. So with the Qataris, they signed a defense pact with them, right? And the defense pact says there will be U.S. troops on the ground in Qatar, and if anyone attacks you, it's as if they attacked the U.S. troops in Qatar, and therefore they will fight back, not necessarily on your behalf, but in a war of self-defense.
And that's how the U.S. is defending Qatar against Iran.
Yeah. So here they're saying, let's step this up. What is more effective financially, manpower, strategically, than having our U.S. troops defend ourselves on the ground in Saudi Arabia? What's more effective is the answer is having them equipped with the best of the best and fighting on your behalf against your enemies. And that's what's happening here. Here are the Saudis. Here's Israel, by the way.
And having them pay for that as well.
Exactly.
So that's the
As
difference.
Trump
here.
loves that. So look, if you look at who are the U.S. allies in the Middle East that are the most strategic, the most important, Israel's way up here. Very close to Israel, very, very close to Israel are the Saudis, because the Saudis have interests that align with the Americans to a great degree, a very, very great degree. They have a military that can be scaled up, can be trained. They already spend a lot of money, a lot of time building.
They have a great army.
And they have a lot of money.
They have a lot of money, a lot of oil. So they're strategic partners of the U.S. And what's really important here, they really, really hate the Iranians. They really hate the Iranians.
And the Qataris.
Yeah. And so if you're the U.S. and you ask yourself the question, how can I best protect my interests in this region? How do I not have to keep the Sixth Fleet, floating around in this area? That's the answer. And there's only one big problem here is, which it really ticks off and concerns Israel. And then you have to sort of navigate those two relationships in a way that works for everyone who's involved.
Which looks like if they join the Abraham Accords, it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
For Israel, for Saudi Arabia, presumably for the Palestinians also, according to what Trump stated.
Look, there's, without getting too in the nitty-gritties of the U.S.-American relationship, this whole move that's happening with the Palestinian state it's not a surprise to anyone. It might be a surprise to the Israeli public who doesn't really track with American politics, but the American government has been abundantly clear from several different voices in stating repeatedly, we will have a solution to the Palestinian issue because that is the only pathway to bringing the Saudis into the fold. That's been very clear. If you listen to what Lindsey Graham said the other day, he said it clearly that he's speaking on behalf of the American government. He says there never was a time where the two-state solution was not part of the solution. And anyone who thinks there's a one-state solution that is the pathway long-term for Israel is delusional. And he's correct in that because they analyze better than we do sometimes the fact that from when it comes to international diplomacy and pressure on Israel, we have to take this issue off the table. It has to be resolved. It causes more damage on what we call asbara, which is, let's call it public relations, public diplomacy. When it comes to that, it causes immense damage to Israel around the world. We have to resolve that issue. And what's happening here, it doesn't fully resolve anything because you can't really resolve anything fully in this sense. But it really,
with regard to the Palestinians.
But it's a strong signal of where things are going. That's what it is.
Yeah, but what's up with this whole AI chips? Do you know about that? Tomer, you?
What, the AI chips?
The AI chips. I'm curious about that.
What it is, but...
Because it's also part of the deal, you know.
But, okay, so America is in a war with China about getting those very weird minerals and other stuff to create those chips. So the talk about AI chips is I really don't have an idea what they do, but there is this whole race about who is going to build the best AI chips in low money.
Interesting.
Between China to America. And America want to be the first provider of this technology to the world.
Okay.
What they do, I have no idea.
And Taiwan.
Yeah. What about Turkey?
That's like the big thing.
What about Turkey?
Turkey doesn't make any chips.
Turkey is not happy now.
So
they don't make any computer chips.
No, soon.
But
Maybe potato chips.
they want F-35.
Shawarma chip.
And on the other hand, they closed in the end a deal with the British and the Germans and the
the
French.
Typhoon plane.
The Typhoon plane.
Yeah.
They took a bunch of Typhoon plane.
Are these planes good?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good.
It's a
They're good.
great.
Yeah.
Not as good as ours.
No, it's a German machine with a British mind and a style of a French person. I don't know what to tell you.
I like that combination.
What is that joke? In heaven, you know the joke?
No?
In heaven, the cooks are Italian, the policemen are French, I'll look it up. And the Germans are the drivers or the mechanics or something. And then in hell, everything's reverse.
The cooks of the Brits or something?
No. Like the lovers are the Germans, the Italians are the police or something like, or the French are the mechanics. Like everything's reverse. Anyway, but to your point, what needs to be understood here, we were talking about this before we started rolling, and I think it's a point worth making, is this whole like weapon system question. It's an ecosystem. It's not a single weapon. And that's really important for people to understand. When the U.S. equips a country with F-35s, it doesn't just drop off a plane on their tarmac and leave. There's a very substantial package that has to do with training, with equipment, with weaponry, and with let's call it the supporting envelope of devices.
So it's like the operating system of these trains that can speak directly with the forces in the control room on the ground, receive the targeting systems,
but it's those
from the intelligence, everything together.
It's those things.
Yeah.
It's the command center is connected to the package. The radar systems are connected to the package. The computers behind it with the AI models and all that kind of stuff, they're connected to the package. So what differentiates, let's just to explain this to the viewers, what the difference between an F-35, for instance, and let's say an F-15 from a previous generation, it's not that it necessarily flies faster. I mean, and it is stealth and all, but aside from the stealth capabilities, what really sets these planes apart and what really sets the generations apart is their ability to communicate as part of a sort of hive mind of different devices, is the ability to get targets, for instance. You could have an F-35 flying over Jerusalem. By the way, also, at this point, also like a latest gen F-15. Mm-hmm. And someone else could feed it a target that's hundreds of kilometers over the horizon. So way beyond what any sensor of the plane would be able to feed, it'd be able to target it. But it can work with ground forces, with other aerial assets. It can create and pass on targets to other people I hope what I'm saying isn't classified, but F-35s have such a high sophisticated radar system on them that air forces around the world can use, well, the ones that have them, can use their radar input to feed targets to other aerial assets. That's how good the system is. So really, it's not just the single plane, it's the electronic suite that goes with it. And the fact that you now have a highly communicative fighting force. And that's what they're selling the Saudis. They're not just selling a plane, they're selling the whole mechanism behind it. And that makes the difference. That's the fighting difference between single planes, such as the Iranians have, that are sort of, they can still fire a missile, they still have cannons, they still have a radar, but they're not communicating at the same level.
I think that's the difference in what Israel has been doing in this war. The ability to fight infantry together with the armored corps, together with the air force, together with the artillery in a cohesive way that you don't jeopardize your own troops and you maximize the firepower against your enemies.
Exactly.
So do you think that we're going to have Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords now?
I don't know.
When? In a few weeks, few months?
They're very cautious. We need to remember that. They're part of a regional, very tight woven relationship system, and they can't just break away from the pack and say we're doing this today. Watch me kind of thing. The U.S. can do that. Israel can afford to do that. The Saudis make these steps, and then they sit back and watch, and they see what the response is from their people. They see what the response is from within, let's call it the elite of their country, and then they really look to see what's happening around them in the Middle East. From their side, they just made a very bold statement in positioning themselves, and they said, we're going all in against Iran and all in with the alliance with the United States, and we're hoping that other people will be part of this. And while doing that, they were able to stay true to their word, which is we won't do this until there's a resolution for the Palestinian problem. And everyone involved in this conversation understands it's a multiple-year process and there's a series of reforms that need to take place, et cetera, et cetera. So now they can move forward with confidence without being deeply concerned about, this being used against them. Yeah. That's a big thing. It's a very substantial
And it might take
move.
a long time also, not just a few weeks.
And they'll be okay with that. I mean, again, MBS is not yet the elected leader of the country.
So he cannot make these decisions on his own.
He does, but but again, it's sort of like a political move looking into the future versus just thinking about today. And also, those F-35 they're not sitting in.
They're not built yet.
They're not built yet.
Right?
We're talking years into the future.
Exactly.
Again, it's a projection of this is where we're going as the Middle East. That's what happened here.
Yeah,
I see.
There is another subject that I feel that just came up on the news, and
this is a cool subject. It's actually very good.
It's a good subject.
Yeah. Donald Trump had enough with the BBC.
Yeah.
And he decided to sue them for,
and
cutting and editing his speech, making him look like a warmonger. And in response, they started to fight within themselves and say that, this was not us. Some journalists are saying, yes, we were told to report against Israel throughout this 2 years of a war, and we were told to report against Donald Trump. And one of the heads of the BBC are saying that our goal, BBC Arabia, our goal was to be like Al Jazeera, Mati. Did you hear that? He said that our top-level journalism was to be like Al Jazeera, which is like a mouthpiece for Hamas, for Qatar, and this is the BBC we're talking about here.
Yair, we fighting the lies every day. We talked, you stand and had whole shows about how information and fake news running over about Israel. And I feel that time that the BBC, they just found a whole operation of how they reported ran through and how they were lying. And I believe that in the next couple of weeks we will hear more about it. But how you can fight a force like that? The BBC was the thing that telling the truth. If you wanted to be somebody, you're saying, yes, I was watching that on the BBC. This is
it's officially
everybody were
facts,
feeling that you're
exactly.
like, wow, you're so smart. And apparently,
well, it seems like the world is flipping, and this is something the Bible is telling us, that truth will be lies and lies will be truth, and everything will be upside down. And the enemy is losing on the battlefield, so he's now trying to win in the public opinion, in taking the hearts of people away from what is truthful, what's happening here on the ground. What we keep saying is that the only way to fight lies is with sharing the truth. And the only way to fight a spiritual war is by praying. So, guys, this is what we call on you. When you hear something, make sure you do not just say, okay, I saw it on TV. That means it's correct. It's not, doesn't happen like that anymore. You need to research. If something sounds like it's not true, maybe it's not true. So I would say research, but then also pray and ask God to give you the discernment to understand what is truthful and what is wrong. And then if you want more information, you can always watch us here at TBN Israel, and make sure to, of course, like, share, subscribe. It helps us reach more people with what is happening. This is what we're doing. We are here every day to share the truth so that you will know how to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
I want to add one thing to what you're saying, Yael, which is I falsely believed, and I've said this before the war, I falsely believed that the truth is somewhere in the middle. There's a gray area, and some people report from one angle, and some people report from another angle. And what has come to light time and time again in this war is that simply that is not the case. There's some part of the people, and I would hope to count ourselves in that group, that do their best to report the truth. And then there's another group of people that intentionally lie. They don't, it's not opinion, it's not policy, it's not agenda. They actively lie, and they lie to their audience day in, day out. There's been a ton of research done on what the BBC's done throughout this war. Just a small example would be the fact that they only report about the Gaza Strip without ever using the words terrorist or Hamas. So if you read through their articles, you would understand that the IDF is fighting against no one. It's just on a conquest trip throughout the Gaza Strip with the goal of killing civilians and destroying homes. There's no mention of who they're fighting against. Sometimes they'll say local militias, but there was a bunch of research done on this topic that just shows you how systematic it is. And it goes on. Where were we? Up north. The IDF was actively preventing a genocide from taking place against the Druze people. And headlines around the world, it was Reuters News was one of them.
I remember that. Israel bombs Syria.
And
Israel bombs Syria again. And these were the headlines.
And then there was another headline that said something along the lines of Israel bombs military facility near, what did it say? Like the...
Capital?
No, it was something in Damascus. It was like a description. It was like near presidential residence in Damascus, as if we're like trying to start a war. We're preventing Sunni forces that are coming through the Syrian desert of actively trying to carry out a genocide against the Druze people. And the world lies about this actively. You'd have to dig really deep in that article.
To see something that tells you actually what's happening and the reason for these strikes. Yeah. It makes it sound like we just wake up in the morning, who are we going to strike today? Yalla, Lebanon. Yalla, Syria.
And that's not the case. Yeah. So to your point, definitely we need to pray about this topic. Definitely people need to be active in sharing the truth. I don't think there's ever been an age where people lied to such a great degree. They just take pleasure in twisting the truth. And they take pleasure in causing damage through this. And it is actively aiding and helping the Hamas terrorists in doing that, because that kind of thing creates pressure around the world against Israel based on a false set of facts. It's a really big issue. Yeah. It requires a ton of prayer, a ton of activism on our end to really share the truth as much as we can so people know that they can't be silent and can't just spread lies in the way they have been.
Great. And today we have people that came to visit us all the way from the United States of America. Do you have any questions for us here off the stage? Something, easy for me and hard for Mati to answer.
We have only a couple minutes left. We've just been informed that the electric company is about to cut the power on the street.
Okay. That's really? So maybe they're paid by the BBC. The BBC just hearing us.
I have the microphone.
Yeah.
They're going to cut. No. I have a question. I think you already answered it in multiple ways. But why is Israel allowing the world to muzzle them when it comes to Hamas? I mean, it seems that the ideologies involved only respect power and control. And Israel had that, and now it seems that Israel is stepping back from that. And my question is, why do you think that is happening?
Well, I think, first of all, that the world is treating the Middle East like a Western observer. that we can negotiate stuff with terrorist entities like Hamas and like the Muslim Brotherhood, like Turkey and other places that are dealing with stuff like a Middle Eastern style. And now that they see that Israel is the only one that they can talk with, then they try to pressure them to act in a way that is more Western, so to speak. And of course, nobody wants to fight wars. Nobody wants the wars to continue. So all they say is like, ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. And they said that without our hostages back home. And the only reason that we have a ceasefire now is because we were able to show force against these terrorists. And sadly, it's kind of a cycle that now we have a ceasefire, but in the eyes of Hamas, it's a hudna, which means a temporary ceasefire, in order to regroup, regain more weapons and power, and then launch additional attacks against their enemy, which is Israel. So it's kind of like a circle that goes around again and again. And I hope that the West will understand what's happening before it's too late, because Hamas and radical Islam is going to the United States of America, to Europe, and becoming stronger and stronger in these places. And we need to apply the Middle Eastern, mindset against these terrorist regimes, because they don't speak the same language and play by the same rules as the West. Hope I was clear.
It's very good.
So thank you so much, Mark, for joining us. And guys, thank you for watching TBN Israel, the podcast. And we'll see you again next time. In the meantime, make sure to like, share, and subscribe before the power is cut off here in the studio. Have a great week.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.